Alara Vance stood very still in the center of the chamber, afraid that even her breathing might disturb it. The room was enormous, far larger than it had appeared from the outside. The walls curved upward and inward, meeting at a point so high above her head that it disappeared into shadow. The surface around her was smooth and dark, like polished stone, but it reflected no light. Instead, the light seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once, soft and pale, without a visible source. She had studied alien ruins for most of her life, but nothing had prepared her for this place. The station orbited a dead star, one that had burned out long before Earth had formed oceans. Every scan said the same thing: no power, no signals, no activity, a tomb in space. And yet, the moment Alara had crossed the threshold, the air had changed. It felt thicker, warmer, as if the structure itself was aware of her presence. She swallowed and forced herself to relax her hands. Her gloves trembled slightly. "Just a machine," she whispered to herself. "Just old technology." The words echoed faintly, then faded. The chamber did not answer. Alara took a careful step forward. Her boots made no sound on the floor. That alone made her nervous. Even the most advanced human materials made some noise. Silence like this felt intentional. She raised her scanner and frowned. The display flickered, then filled with static before shutting down completely. "Great," she muttered. This was supposed to be a simple survey. Drop in, record structural data, confirm the station was inactive, and leave. Instead, she was alone inside something that refused to behave like a dead object. The hum started without warning. It was low and deep, not loud, but powerful enough that she felt it in her bones. The vibration traveled up her legs and into her chest like standing near a massive engine. Alara froze again, her heart pounding. The hum lasted only a few seconds. Then it stopped. The sudden silence was worse. Every instinct she had screamed that something had changed. Not broken, not activated, changed. Alara turned slowly, scanning the chamber with her eyes since her tools were useless. The walls looked the same. The light had not shifted. Nothing appeared different. And yet she knew she was no longer alone. A strange pressure brushed against her thoughts, gentle but unmistakable, like the feeling of someone standing just behind you. Ilara's breath caught. She took a step backward without thinking. Then another. Her heel touched something solid. She gasped and spun around, raising her hands. There was a wall behind her. It had not been there before. The surface was perfectly smooth, seamless, and faintly warm. It curved gently, matching the shape of the chamber, but it was close enough that she could touch it with both palms. Alara stared at it, her mind racing. "I didn't pass a wall," she said out loud, as if the station might correct her. "This room was open." The wall did not respond. She pressed her hand against it. There was no vibration, no visible seam, no sign of movement. But when she leaned closer, she felt it, not heat exactly, but presence. Like standing near a living thing that was holding very still. Alara backed away again, her shoulders brushing the wall. A cold realization settled in her chest. The room had changed its shape around her. Her first instinct was panic. She fought it down with years of training. Panic made mistakes. Mistakes in places like this could be fatal even without violence. Running out of air, getting trapped, losing contact with her ship. She tapped her wrist communicator. "Vega, do you read me?" Only silence answered. Her ship was less than 2 kilometers away, docked to the outer ring of the station. There was no reason communication should fail unless something was interfering with it, or unless the station had decided it didn't want her talking to anyone else. That thought made her skin prickle. Alara forced herself to breathe slowly. She had spent her career studying alien languages and behavior. The first rule was always the same: observe before acting. "If you can hear me," she said carefully, speaking to the empty air, "I am not here to damage or claim anything. I am here to understand." The pressure in her mind shifted. It was subtle, almost imagined, but it felt like attention turning toward her fully for the first time. Alara's breath caught again, not in fear this time, but in awe. Something was listening. The wall behind her shimmered. Lines of faint light spread across its surface like veins, forming patterns that made no sense at first. Then the shapes began to move, rearranging themselves with slow precision. Symbols appeared. They were not letters, not exactly, more like concepts frozen into geometry. Alara's pulse quickened as recognition sparked. This was not decoration. It was language. Her training took over. Fear receded, replaced by intense focus. She stepped forward, forgetting the wall for a moment as she studied the shifting symbols. They changed in response to her gaze, slowing when she focused, speeding up when she looked away. "It's adaptive," she whispered. "You're adapting to me." The symbols paused. A single shape expanded, unfolding like a flower made of light. Alara felt a sudden pressure behind her eyes, not painful but heavy. Images flickered through her mind, stars, distances, time measured in ways humans had no words for. She staggered slightly but stayed on her feet. "Easy," she said, her voice tight. "I can't process everything at once." The pressure eased. A breath she didn't realize she was holding escaped her lungs. Alara leaned against the wall, her heart racing again, but this time with excitement. This station was not dormant. It was waiting. The realization sent a chill through her. Waiting implied intention, purpose. And if it was waiting, then her arrival was not an accident, even if no one on Earth had known this place truly existed. "Why me?" she asked softly. The symbols shifted again, forming patterns that felt uncertain. Not confusion exactly, but something close to curiosity. Alara almost laughed at the thought. "You didn't expect a human," she said. "Did you?" The pressure pulsed once, gently. She took that as agreement. Alara straightened and stepped away from the wall, testing the space. The room did not close in further. The wall remained where it was, solid and calm. That was a good sign. She clasped her hands together to stop them from shaking. "Okay," she said. "Let's start slow." She introduced herself, speaking clearly, explaining what she was, where she came from, and why humans explored ruins instead of leaving them alone. She talked about curiosity, about questions that refused to stay unanswered. As she spoke, the symbols on the wall shifted in rhythm with her words, recording, analyzing, learning. Time passed strangely in the chamber. Alara had no idea how long she spoke. Minutes, hours, it didn't matter. The station did not interrupt her. When she finally fell silent, her throat dry and her mind exhausted, the pressure returned, stronger than before, but still gentle. A new pattern formed on the wall. This one was different, simpler, focused. It wasn't a statement, it was a question. Alara stared at it, her heart pounding as understanding slowly took shape in her mind. Whatever this place was, whatever intelligence slept within it, it was no longer content to observe. It wanted an answer. And for the first time since she had stepped inside, Alara realized the truth. She was not trapped. She was being tested. Alara did not answer the question right away. She stood facing the glowing wall, her eyes tracing the simple shape again and again. The meaning pressed gently against her thoughts, waiting, not demanding, not rushing. That alone told her this intelligence was very old and very confident. Most machines waited for commands. This one waited for understanding. She lowered herself to the floor, sitting with her back against the smooth wall. It felt steady, like it had decided to support her weight. Alara let out a slow breath. If this place was testing her, then panic or guessing would only make things worse. "You're asking something important," she said softly. "I need time." The symbols shifted slightly, like a nod. That surprised her. Machines did not usually show patience unless they were designed to imitate it. This felt different. Less imitation, more practice. Alara closed her eyes for a moment and focused on grounding herself. She thought about Earth, about the ocean she grew up near, the sound of waves hitting rocks over and over, never tired of trying. She thought about why she had chosen this life in the first place. Curiosity was part of it, but not all. She opened her eyes and looked at the wall again. "You want to know why humans keep going," she said, "even when things end, even when we fail." The pressure in her mind warmed slightly like approval. Alara nodded to herself. "Okay. I'll try." She spoke slowly, choosing words she hoped would translate into concepts instead of sounds. She talked about early humans looking at the night sky with no idea what stars really were, yet still wondering. She talked about rebuilding after disasters, not because success was guaranteed but because stopping felt worse. As she spoke, the chamber responded. The light around her brightened just a little. The air seemed clearer, easier to breathe. New symbols appeared on the wall, forming paths that connected and separated like branching thoughts. Alara realized then that the station was not only listening, it was comparing. She was not the first. That thought made her spine straighten. "You've asked others this before," she said. Images flickered across the wall, not clear pictures but impressions, worlds under different skies, beings shaped nothing like humans, tall, wide, flowing, sharp, glowing. Each image ended the same way: silence, darkness, stillness. "They answered differently," Alara whispered. The pressure grew heavy for a moment, then faded. Not sadness, more like closure. "They chose endings," she said slowly. "Perfection, control, escape." The symbols pulsed once. Alara felt a strange ache in her chest. These civilizations had reached far enough to find this place, to be asked this question, and still failed. Not because they were weak, but because they were certain. Humans were rarely certain. "That's our flaw," she said quietly, "and our strength." She stood up and walked a few steps away from the wall. The chamber did not stop her. That was another good sign. We argue, we doubt, we change our minds. Sometimes we ruin things, sometimes we fix them badly. She gave a small, tired smile. "But we don't stop asking what comes next." The wall brightened further, the symbols becoming sharper, clearer. Alara felt something unlock in her thoughts, like a door opening just enough to let light through. A new sensation followed. Not images this time, but data. Vast and organized, flowing past her awareness like a river. She could not grasp all of it, but she understood its nature. This station was not just ancient. It was central. It had been built to watch cycles. Civilizations rising, peaking, collapsing, over and over. It did not interfere. It only observed and asked one question at the end: why continue? Most answered by trying to escape the cycle itself. Humans had not reached that point yet, and maybe that was why she was here. Alara staggered slightly as the flow eased. She pressed a hand to the wall for balance. It felt warmer now, almost familiar. "You're trying to decide if we're worth something," she said. "Not saving, not ruling, just continuing." The symbols rearranged into a tight spiral, then expanded. Yes, the answer was clear. Alara swallowed. The weight of it settled on her shoulders, heavy but not crushing. "I can't speak for all of humanity," she said honestly. "We don't even agree with each other most of the time." The pressure softened. "But I can tell you this," she continued. "We don't need a perfect ending to keep going. We don't need a promise. Sometimes all we need is the chance to try again tomorrow." The chamber went completely still. No hum, no pressure, no movement. For one terrible moment, Alara thought she had failed. Then the floor beneath her feet lit up. Lines of light spread outward in every direction, forming shapes that mirrored the wall's symbols. The chamber felt larger somehow, as if space itself had relaxed. Alara laughed once, short and breathless. "That's good, right?" The wall answered by dissolving. Not disappearing, but unfolding, pulling back into the structure around her. The chamber opened fully, revealing depths she had not seen before. Beyond the room stretched corridors filled with soft light, each leading somewhere unknown. She stared in wonder. "You're showing me." The pressure returned, warm and steady. Guide, that was the concept that settled into her mind. Not ruler, not owner. Guide. Alara's excitement was quickly followed by fear. "I'm just one person," she said. "I can't guide something like this." The response came immediately. Not alone. Her wrist communicator buzzed. Ilara gasped and looked down. The screen flickered, then stabilized. "Ilara," Captain Rowan's voice crackled through. "We lost you. What's happening?" Relief flooded her so fast her knees almost gave out. "I'm okay," she said quickly. "I think the station, it's active, very active." There was a pause. Define active. Alara looked around at the glowing corridors, the living light. "It's listening," she said. "And it's choosing." Silence stretched on the line. Then carefully, "Choosing what?" Alara hesitated. How could she explain this without sounding unhinged? "Choosing whether humanity gets more time," she said at last. Another pause, then quietly, "And." Alara closed her eyes for a second, feeling the station's presence steady behind her like a mountain. "And it hasn't said no." The station responded by sending a gentle pulse through the chamber. Across the communicator, Rowan inhaled sharply. "You felt that too?" Alara asked. "Yes," Rowan said. "All our instruments just recalibrated themselves. Power levels stabilized. Noise dropped to zero." Alara's heart raced. This place was already reaching beyond her, touching human systems without force or threat, helping without asking for control. "This is bigger than me," she said. The station agreed. The light shifted again, forming a path leading deeper inside. Not a command, an invitation. Alara took a step forward. She did not know where the path led. She did not know what humanity would become because of this moment. But she knew one thing with absolute clarity. The test was not over. It had only just begun. Alara followed the path of light slowly, careful with every step. The corridor did not feel like a hallway built for walking. It felt like a thought made solid, long and smooth, bending gently as if it did not care about straight lines. The light beneath her feet shifted with her movement, always just ahead, never pushing, never pulling. Behind her, the chamber stayed open. It did not trap her. That mattered. She glanced at her wrist communicator. The signal remained stable now, a thin line of comfort connecting her to her ship and crew. Captain Rowan stayed silent, giving her space, but she knew he was listening. "You're still with me," Alara said quietly, more to the station than to the captain. The presence around her responded, calm and steady. It did not fill her head like before. Instead, it stayed at the edges of her awareness, like a horizon you could always see no matter where you stood. The corridor opened into a vast space. Alara stopped without realizing she had done so. The room was not really a room. It was a hollow sphere, so large that distance lost meaning. Layers of light floated within it, curved like slices of invisible worlds. Each layer moved at a different speed, some slow like drifting clouds, others fast like flowing rivers. Within the layers were images. Civilizations. Alara's breath caught as she recognized patterns. Cities under alien skies, structures grown instead of built, stars surrounded by careful rings of light. She saw worlds thriving, expanding, shining with purpose. Then she saw them fade. Not through explosions or destruction, but through quiet endings, lights dimming, movement slowing, final stillness. The station was showing her its memory. "You watched all of this," Alara whispered. "You didn't stop any of it." The presence responded with a gentle truth. Intervention changes outcome. Observation preserves pattern. Alara felt a chill. "And you think the pattern is broken now?" The layers shifted. One small section brightened, separating itself from the rest. Humanity. She saw Earth from orbit, blue and fragile. She saw human colonies scattered across space, uneven, messy, alive. Ships moving not in perfect lines but in overlapping paths, crossing and recrossing like nervous thoughts. She saw mistakes, failed colonies, abandoned stations, scars that humanity had not hidden. And yet the light did not fade. "We keep going," Alara said softly. The presence agreed. The layers around the human section began to bend, subtly adjusting their movement to match it, not changing humanity but changing everything around it. Alara's heart began to race. "You're aligning things," she said, "not forcing outcomes, reducing pressure, giving space. Time." The concept echoed through her mind again. This isn't a gift, she realized. It's patience. The station did not deny it. Alara felt small in that moment. Not unimportant, but tiny compared to the scale of what she was standing inside. She was one human, one voice, and yet she had been allowed into the center of something that had watched galaxies live and die. "Why me?" she asked again, more quietly this time. The answer came not as words but as memory. She saw herself as a child, sitting on a seawall as the tide came in. She remembered watching broken shells roll back and forth, never quite settling. She remembered thinking that if the ocean never gave up, maybe people didn't have to either. The station had seen that moment. Alara's throat tightened. "You've been watching us longer than we've known," she said. "Yes." The realization settled deep. Humanity had not been invisible. They had been noticed early, not for their power but for their refusal to stop asking, even when answers hurt. The light layers shifted again, this time forming a clear path through the sphere. At the center hovered a structure unlike anything else. It looked simple, just a ring of light, but it felt heavier than everything around it, core. The meaning pressed gently into her thoughts. Alara hesitated. "If I step closer," she said, "will it change things?" Already changing. She took another step anyway. As she approached the core, information flowed again, slower this time, more careful. She felt the station measuring not her intelligence but her intent. It tested her reactions, her emotional balance, her honesty. She did not try to hide anything. Fear, wonder, doubt, hope, all of it was there. The core brightened in response. Alara realized then that the test was not about answers at all. It was about how humans carried uncertainty. Other civilizations had reached for certainty, for final solutions. Humans carried questions like tools, imperfect but useful. "You're not looking for someone who knows everything," she said. "You're looking for someone who won't pretend to." The presence confirmed it. Alara stopped just short of the core. She felt as if stepping closer might erase her, not physically but conceptually, like being absorbed into a larger idea. "I won't merge with you," she said gently, "and you shouldn't merge with us." The station paused. "You need observers," she continued, "not controllers, and we need space to fail." The pause stretched longer this time. Then the core dimmed slightly, stabilizing. "Accepted." Alara exhaled, realizing only then how tense she had been. "Good," she said, her voice shaking just a little, "because we're really good at failing." A soft warmth spread through the sphere. If the station could laugh, this might have been it. Her communicator chimed again. "Alara," Rowan said, "we're seeing changes across the station. Structural stress dropping, power flows stabilizing, it's like the whole place just relaxed." Alara smiled faintly. It decided not to rush the ending. "Is that good?" Rowan asked. "Yes," she said. "Very." The layers around the human section glowed brighter, not blinding but steady. Alara could feel the station extending its influence outward, lightly touching probabilities, smoothing edges. No control, just balance. "This will affect more than us," she said. "Other species will notice. They already are." The station showed her glimpses of distant civilizations pausing, recalibrating, sensing a shift they could not explain. Not fear, confusion, curiosity. Alara felt a strange pride rise in her chest. Humanity had not conquered anything. They had simply existed loudly enough to be heard. "I should go back," she said. "I need to tell them. We need to decide together." The presence agreed without hesitation. The path of light reformed, leading away from the core back toward the chamber where it had all begun. Alara turned, taking one last look at the vast memory around her. "Will you still be here?" she asked. "Always watching, never ruling." She nodded. That was enough. As she walked, the station gently withdrew from her thoughts, leaving her mind clear and her steps steady. The corridor shortened, unfolding space efficiently, until the familiar chamber came into view. The wall did not close behind her this time. She stepped into open space, free to leave. Alara paused at the threshold and placed a hand against the smooth surface beside her. "Thank you," she said, "not as a scientist, not as a representative, as a human." The station answered with silence. But it was no longer an empty silence. It was the sound of something choosing to wait. Alara returned to her ship slowly, as if the station might change its mind if she moved too fast. The docking corridor felt different now. It still looked the same, metal, soft lights, gentle curve, but the heavy tension she had felt earlier was gone. The silence no longer pressed against her ears. It felt calm, watchful, but no longer focused only on her. Captain Rowan met her at the airlock. He stopped short when he saw her face. "You look like you just spoke to the universe," he said quietly. Alara gave a tired smile. "Something like that." They moved into the ship together. The hatch sealed behind them with a familiar hiss, and for the first time since entering the station, Alara felt fully human again. The smell of recycled air, the low vibration of the engines, the soft hum of systems, all of it grounded her. Rowan studied her closely. "You okay?" "I will be," she said, "but we need to talk, and then we need to talk to Earth." The bridge crew watched her with open curiosity as she took a seat. Every system display showed green. Power flow was smoother than before, cleaner, as if the station had quietly fixed small problems no one had noticed. "That wasn't us," one of the engineers said. "The station adjusted our systems without overriding anything. It's like it helped." Alara nodded. "That's what it does." Rowan raised an eyebrow. "You're going to have to explain that." She took a deep breath and began. She did not try to dramatize it. She spoke plainly, carefully, choosing simple words. She explained the question the station asked, the civilizations it had watched, the cycle of rise and quiet ending. She explained what it had decided about humanity, not as rulers, not as saviors, but as something rare. A civilization that kept going without needing certainty. The bridge was silent when she finished. Finally, Rowan spoke. "You're saying this thing can influence reality on a large scale." "Yes," Alara said, "but it doesn't force, it adjusts, it gives time." "And it chose us," another officer said softly. Alara shook her head. "No. It chose to wait with us." That difference mattered. The transmission to Earth took hours to prepare. Every word was reviewed, simplified, stripped of emotional language. When the message was finally sent, Alara felt more nervous than she had inside the station. She had faced an ancient intelligence without fear. Facing her own species felt harder. While they waited for a response, subtle changes continued. Navigation routes near the station became more stable. Sensor noise dropped across multiple systems. Even the crew noticed it in small ways: less fatigue, clearer thoughts, smoother operations. "This place is doing something," Rowan said quietly as they watched the data scroll. "Yes," Alara replied, "and it's doing it carefully." Days passed. The response from Earth finally came, not from one voice but many. Scientists, politicians, cultural leaders. They argued, questioned, doubted. Alara listened to the recordings later and felt a strange sense of comfort. Humans arguing meant humans thinking. No one rushed to claim ownership. No one spoke of control. The memory of past mistakes, of rushing toward power without understanding, still lived deep in human culture. A decision was made slowly. Humanity would not attempt to command the station. They would acknowledge it, study it, respect its boundaries, and most importantly, they would decide nothing final without time. Alara felt the station respond the moment the decision was transmitted, not with words, with balance. Across human space, small problems eased. Long-term climate systems on distant colonies stabilized without sudden shifts. Star routes became safer, not shorter. Old infrastructure lasted a little longer than expected. Nothing dramatic, everything meaningful. Other species noticed. The first contact came from a nearby coalition that had always kept its distance from humans. Their message was careful, polite, and filled with one question. What changed? Alara helped draft the response. We didn't change, it said. We were given time to stay ourselves. More messages followed. Curiosity replaced suspicion. Humans were no longer just expanding. They were steady. Alara returned to the station alone one last time. She stood in the chamber where it had begun, feeling the familiar calm presence around her. The walls no longer closed in. The light no longer tested. You're busy, she said softly. Yes. She sensed the station working, not controlling events but smoothing extremes, preventing sudden collapse. It was not saving civilizations. It was reducing the speed of endings. You're trusting us, she said. Learning you, Alara smiled. We're still messy, preferred. She laughed quietly at that. You know some people are going to want more. They'll want answers, guarantees. The presence did not deny it. And you won't give them that, she said. Correct, she felt a deep sense of relief. A tool that refused to be a weapon was exactly what the universe needed. Alara stepped back, preparing to leave. We'll disappoint you sometimes, expected. She paused, and sometimes we'll surprise you. Hope. The words settled warmly in her chest. As she left the station, she looked back once through the viewport. It still looked like a silent ruin orbiting a dead star. To anyone else, it was unchanged. But Alara knew better. The universe had not been fixed. It had simply chosen not to give up yet. And for humanity, that was more than enough. Years passed, and the universe did not end. That alone felt strange to many people. Alara Vance stood on a quiet balcony overlooking the ocean on Earth, watching the waves roll in under a pale sky. The water moved the same way it always had, rising and falling without hurry. She liked to think the universe felt a little like this now. Still dangerous. Still vast, but no longer rushing toward silence. She was older now. Lines marked her face, earned through long years of listening, explaining, and sometimes arguing. She no longer traveled as much. Others had taken her place among the stars, trained not to command the station but to understand its limits. She had insisted on that. The station remained where it always had, orbiting its dead star, quiet and watchful. Humanity never named it officially. Any name felt like ownership. Most people simply called it the listener. It never spoke again the way it had spoken to Alara. It never asked another question so directly. Instead, it worked gently, patiently in the background of reality. Civilization still struggled. Planets still faced disasters. People still made mistakes, but endings came slower. A colony on the edge of human space nearly failed when its power systems aged faster than expected. Before panic could spread, stability returned just enough for engineers to adapt. No miracle. Just time. A distant species faced cultural collapse after rapid expansion strained their society. Trade routes shifted subtly. Pressure eased. They had space to rethink instead of break. Word spread, not as fear but as something closer to comfort. Humanity did not become leaders of the galaxy. That idea faded quickly. Other species saw humans not as rulers, but as neighbors who understood uncertainty. Humans shared what they knew, admitted what they did not, and refused to promise perfect futures. That honesty mattered. Alara leaned on the balcony railing, listening to the waves. Footsteps approached behind her. You always come here when you're thinking too hard, Rowan said. She smiled without turning. It helps me remember scale. Rowan joined her, looking out at the sea. He had retired from command years ago, though he still carried himself like a captain. They're debating again, he said. The council. About what? Alara asked, though she already knew. Whether to ask the listener for more. She closed her eyes briefly. And? They're divided, Rowan said. Some think we're ready, some think asking at all misses the point. Alara nodded. It does. Rowan studied her. You're still against it. Yes, she said simply. It gave us time, not answers. If we ask it to decide things for us, we become smaller. Rowan was quiet for a long moment. I think they'll listen to you, Alara sighed. They shouldn't listen to me because I was first. They should listen because they understand. She turned back toward the ocean. A wave broke against the rocks below, scattering white foam before pulling back again. "Do you ever think about what happens when we're gone?" Rowan asked. "All the time," Alara said, and she considered the question. "I think the listener will still be there, watching, waiting, and I think that's okay." Rowan nodded slowly. "No endings, just pauses. Just chances," she corrected gently. That night, Alara dreamed of the station. Not the vast memory or the glowing core, but the quiet chamber where it had all begun. In the dream, the wall did not close in. It stayed open, wide enough for many people to stand together. When she woke, she felt calm. The council meeting took place weeks later. Alara attended remotely, her image projected into a chamber filled with representatives from across human space. Some faces were familiar. Others belonged to people born after her encounter with the listener, for whom this slower universe was normal. They spoke respectfully. They debated carefully. When it was her turn, Alara did not argue. She did not warn or persuade. She told a story. She spoke of standing alone in a silent room, afraid, unsure, and unimportant. She spoke of realizing that what the listener valued was not strength or knowledge, but the ability to live without certainty. "It didn't choose us because we were special," she said. "It chose to wait because we were unfinished." The room was silent. "If we ask it to do more," she continued, "we tell it we are done becoming, and we are not." When the vote was taken, the decision was clear. Humanity would not ask. Across the stars, the listener adjusted nothing in response. That was how they knew they had chosen well. Alara's health declined quietly, the way most human things did. She did not fight it. She had never believed in fighting endings. She believed in meeting them honestly. In her final days, she asked to see the ocean one last time. Rowan stood beside her as she watched the waves, smaller now from where she sat. The air was cool, the sky soft with evening light. "Do you think it knows?" she asked suddenly. "The listener," Rowan said. "Yes," Rowan considered. "I think it always knows where we are." "Not like tracking, more like awareness." Alara smiled faintly. "Good." When she passed, it was peaceful. Across human space, no alarms sounded. No stars shifted. No great signal marked the moment, but something subtle happened. The listener paused. For the first time since it had chosen to wait, it adjusted nothing at all. It observed without correction, without smoothing, for just a moment longer than usual. If it had been human, it might have been called respect. Years became decades. Decades became centuries. Humanity changed, slowly, unevenly, sometimes painfully, sometimes beautifully. They spread not faster but wiser. They built cultures that valued repair over replacement, questions over answers. They remembered Alara not as a hero, but as a listener who taught them how to listen back. Other civilizations followed similar paths, not because humans told them to, but because time allowed them to see alternatives. The universe remained dangerous. Stars still died. Worlds still ended, but endings were no longer rushed. Far in the dark, orbiting its dead star, the listener continued to watch. It did not judge outcomes. It did not seek perfection. It waited for stories still being written. And long after Alara Vance became a name in history, long after even humanity changed beyond recognition, the universe carried forward one quiet truth. Someone had once backed up slowly, hit a wall, and instead of panicking, chose to listen. Because of that choice, everything else was allowed to continue.